It's my pleasure to introduce our day chair, which will introduce our speaker for today. Our day chair is Gail Noakes. Everybody knows Gail, but Gail has owned her own company, Gail Noakes Supervisor Success, for the last 7 years. She works with manufacturing companies and provides frontline supervisors and managers with the tools and experience to be confident in leading their people. Gail has grown to be a super networker. In 2023, she met with 184 individuals and groups to help individuals build their business and career. Gail has been a member of the City of Lakes Rotary Club, the best Rotary Club in the world, for 20 years. She is a past president and a vocational service chair, as well as led our special projects and many other positions. So please welcome Gail Noakes.
Good morning, everyone. And I am happy today, but I thought I'd save it for my introduction. I am thrilled to have Danielle here today. I have known Danielle for a couple of years now. We're in a networking group together. And I love her passion. Danielle's always friendly, always smiling. And so it's always great to see her. So the official bio here, Danielle Alexander Bailey is a graduate of the Art Institute's International, Minnesota, and has been an independent graphic designer and fractional art director since 2011. In the past 13 years, she's helped a variety of business types design logos, brand identities, and at any type of marketing collateral under the sun for both print and digital applications. She's collaborated with Ridgeview, Best Buy, Jellycat, and lots of small local businesses before narrowing her industry focus to industrial manufacturing and life sciences. While Danielle typically works with businesses to stand out from their competition, she's noticed personal branding is a very similar process. She's sharing her experiences today in hopes of helping others find progress over perfection. Danielle resides in Waconia with her husband and her 2 young daughters. She loves nonfiction, anything vintage, and driving her 1970 VW Beetle. Didn't know about that one. That's awesome. So thanks for being here, Danielle. Welcome, and we'll let you take it over.
Thank you so much, Gail. I appreciate the introduction, and I think so highly of you and how you help people. Can everybody see my screen okay here?
Absolutely.
Awesome. Okay, let's get started. So personal branding sounds kind of like a lot of work, right? Like the last thing you need right now is something else on your plate. And it sounds complicated, but I'm here to let you know that it's not complicated. It's important, but not complicated. It is just these steps right here. It's about learning about who you are, who you help, managing that image, creating a consistent image, and then when well done, that establishes you as a trusted authority in your field. It attracts more opportunities for you in business and service and life, and it helps you help more people, which is what life's all about. And so people say, okay, well, how do you do that? And people say, oh, well, just be authentic. Well, that word authenticity is being thrown around quite a bit just in the last few years, especially. And I think it's kind of lost a little bit of its punch. And so what I say when I mean to be authentic, I mean the real you, something that AI cannot take away from you, by the way. And it's not the person you want to be necessarily, but it's the person you really are. And I've got a story for that because in 1919, my great-grandfather opened up a drugstore on the square of Montezuma, Iowa. He was a pharmacist. From there, my great uncle and my grandfather became pharmacists and owned that same business in the same building. And eventually my dad did as well. And my lifelong dream since I was little, I literally grew up in that drugstore and I wanted to be 4th generation pharmacist and have my name be 5th on the door. But then one day in high school, like many nights in high school, I was sitting at the dining room table and I was crying over my math homework. And it wasn't calculus, it was algebra 1. And my dad just very calmly, very seriously sat me down and said, "Oh, Danielle, I think you need to find a new dream. You know, this is not your strength." He said, "I don't think that I can watch you struggle the rest of high school or 6 years of pharmacy school. And you're going to be miserable the entire time." And I was just devastated. But then he told me, you know, great parental advice that you should pick a job, pick a career in something that you're really passionate about, and then you'll never work a day in your life. And I am so glad that I listened and became a graphic designer instead, because you can't give out the wrong milligram of marketing. So I think we're all better off that I became a graphic designer anyway. So that was a key moment in my life, a real turning point. And the next turning point was in my mid-20s when I attended a StrengthsFinder workshop with a friend of mine. Is anybody familiar with this? Maybe you've taken it. Yes, awesome. If you have and you know them off the top of your head, I'd love if you'd put them in the chat, because I just love to see other people's combinations. I think they're so fascinating. And if you're not familiar with it, the StrengthsFinder is Gallup and Tom Rath have identified 34 innate strengths that everyone possesses, but just in a different combination. And so you take a pretty in-depth test, and then it ranks your strengths highest to lowest, and it gives you your top 5. And these were my top 5. Discipline, responsibility, empathy, context, and intellection. And I thought, oh my goodness, wow. No wonder I was no fun in high school or college. I was so serious. If you know a 16-year-old, an intellectual 16-year-old that is responsible and disciplined, you need to check on them, because they are not doing well with their peers. You know, they might need a little bit of therapy. But this was so wonderful for me, because I was able to remove all of the emotion, and I was able to understand that there wasn't anything wrong with me. I just had a very unique set of strengths, just like you do. And I was able to really give myself some grace and give other people grace as well, and really just magnify my strengths and intentionally work on weaknesses. So people say, okay, well, how do you do that? And really, it's just about being consistent. I love the credo, variety is the spice of life, right? Right? Well, no, not in business, it's not. Variety is a spice of life. It is not it is not for business, because think of yourself as consumers. It starts out that it starts out with awareness. You find out that you know someone or the business, then you like them. Eventually, you decide that you really want their services, and then you come to expect that same service and product over and over. You don't want any surprises. Why do you think that people like fast food? Probably because you're going to get the same fries in Des Moines as you're going to get in Minneapolis, as you're going to get in Timbuktu for the same price. There's no surprises there. There's kind of some comfort in that, and it's very low risk. So one good thing leads to another. The consistency leads to familiarity, which leads to credibility, then trust, and then loyalty. And loyalty is where it's at, because you want people to think, oh, you know, how did I live without them, or product or service or that person? You want to create brand advocates, or advocates for yourself or for your organization. And how do you do that? Well, I just have to say that it is the little things. And it's not necessarily what you say, but it's how you say it in a variety of different ways. And looking at these elements is exactly the way that I help businesses with their brand identity system. And as I was doing that, I realized, oh my gosh, it's the same thing for personal branding, which is why I started talking about this. It's a way to think about how you show up in all forms of communication. So let's just pick color. The psychology of color is so vast and so cool and fascinating. There are entire classes dedicated to this in art school. And does anybody know, I'm from Iowa. Does anybody know why the visitor locker room at the University of Iowa Kinnick Stadium is pink? It looks like Pepto-Bismol kind of splashed all around this place. And it's actually called Baker Miller pink, after the scientists that found that this particular shade of pink will lower heart rates and it will lessen aggressive tendencies. So what a way to get into the head of your opponent just with color. It really is important. Now, also, font is important. Now, these are two very different vibes here, right? Very different. And the only difference is the font. So I want you to be cognizant of your email signature, the fonts that you're choosing to use when you email and things like that. If you're a lawyer or a brain surgeon, you might not want to be using the Curls font or Comic Sans. You probably want to leave that to a preschool teacher because that is a perception of you. Next up is your brand voice or your tone. And I help businesses go through this and kind of identify this. And then we figure out where they are kind of in the barometer here. You know, are you realistic? Are you idealistic? Are you exclusive? Are you accessible? You know, luxury, economical? It doesn't matter where you are here. You just want to make sure that you pick it and then stick with it. And it needs to translate in all forms of communication, from your physical communication, your voicemail box. You know, is it the automated bot or is it actually you? So people can hear your tone and your inflection. Is it your imagery, your iconography? All of those things play into that. Taxidermy. I have a story about this. About this time last year, I met with a gentleman. We were doing a networking call and he popped up on Zoom, and the background of his, it wasn't blurred out, and he looked like he was kind of in a hunting lodge. It looked like very much like a basement paneled wood. And then he had these birds mounted, and right away I said, oh, you know, you must be an avid outdoorsman. You know, my husband, loves to go hunting. My daughter loves it, being outside in nature, see the sunrise, you know. And, you know, it's not really my jam. It's not really doing anything for my feng shui, but I can appreciate it. And he actually apologized and he said, oh, I'm sorry, I'm working from home today and didn't have time to change my setting, blur my background, because some people don't like that, you know, and might take it the wrong way. And I kind of said, well, yeah, but you own your own business. So if people don't like that you're an outdoorsman, you know, maybe they're just not your people. But I loved it because it was a way for me to remember him. You know, I can't tell you what I had for lunch yesterday, but I can close my eyes and I can see this person's face, his name. And when someone tells me trigger words that remind me of him, I know exactly where to send them, to refer them to Mike, because we had such a commonality that we were able to have a rapport with each other and talk about this, even though I myself am not an outdoorsman, but it made him stand out. So now we've talked a lot about you, but I want to emphasize that you are not the main character. You are your own brand, but you're not the main character. So who's the main character? It's who's ever buying what you're selling. It's who's ever donating or volunteering to your organization, or who is the recipient of those funds and things that you're working on. Now, I know that this is really deep for an early morning Wednesday conversation, but here is the hierarchy of needs. And baseline, what everyone needs, what every human needs to survive is, you know, food, air, water, shelter, all of that good stuff, right? And then it moves up to safety. You need to feel protected. But really, what do we all want? What do we all need? We just want to be seen, right? We all just want to be acknowledged. We want people to look us in the eye, as Mr. Wheeler talked about in the reflection this morning, and see people, be acknowledged, be appreciated. So how can you do that? How can you give that away? And how can you receive that back? And my suggestion is, as trite or as cliche as it sounds, is just get creative with your gratitude. And A couple years ago, someone introduced me to Kevin Donlin here because we're both in marketing, but we do different things. So someone thought that we would be good referral partners. So we met via Zoom. We had a great conversation. He was so generous with his time. He gave me some book recommendations. He gave me a free testimonial extractor to help me with getting testimonials for my clients for my website and things like that. He was just super generous. And so afterwards, I grabbed my branded stationery and my stamps here that I keep on my desk. I wrote him a thank you note, dropped it in the mail, didn't really think anything of it. And then a couple days later, I get a notification on my phone from LinkedIn, and it says, Kevin Donlin has tagged you. And I thought, oh, well, what's that? I open it up. He had taken a picture of my thank you note, and he had posted about how building your business on the power of appreciation. Then a couple of days later, he actually wrote a LinkedIn newsletter about it. Excuse me. And if you're familiar with LinkedIn newsletters, it will go out to all of your subscribers' email about it and notify them about it, as well as show up in his feed. Now, this post didn't get a lot of interaction. It was like 7 likes and 1 share, which was me. But I looked at how many followers he had. At that time, Kevin had 5,400 followers. So it's possible that up to 5,400 people could have seen this post and wondered, okay, well, design, what kind of design does she do? That's intriguing, and kind of look me up. So why was this effective and why did it work? And I think that's because of, remember dial-up back in the day? Kids today will never understand the anticipation of hearing that very unique sound and waiting to log on to the World Wide Web and hearing, you've got mail, but 30 years later, the novelty has worn off. Our inboxes are totally overflowing and we're drowning in emails. But so when somebody receives something in the mail, it's very tactile and it's physical and it stands out. And I had a conversation recently with a printer that's saying that they're seeing a huge influx of, direct mail to younger millennials and Gen Z, because those folks have never written a letter before. They've never received personalized mail. And so if they get something in the mail that they can see and touch, they feel very seen. And they love it. Now, don't abuse this because the post office probably doesn't want me to tell you this, but you can actually send a variety of things in the mail via USPS without an outer packaging. And the reason I found out about this was a client told me that he had sent a pineapple in the mail. I don't know how he got the sticker to adhere or all of that good stuff, but it intrigued me. And he said he wanted to do another campaign like that. And I had a couple clients that I wanted to thank for their business. So I saw this ball down here, but my handwriting is terrible if you saw on the handwritten note post back there. And so I happened upon this website called sendaball.com. And for $20, they will very professionally send this through the mail to whoever recipient you want. You can pick your color and everything. And so I wrote on it, or had them write on it, it was a ball working with you, Danielle Alexander Design. And I sent it to 2 people at a hospital that I just helped rebrand their logo and brand identity system. And then I kind of sat back and waited, watched my website analytics, because I wanted to know, because everybody who, from the post office to the mailroom at the hospital to these people in their office, everybody was kind of seeing that and thinking, okay, well, who is this? And I asked the recipients, of course, they reached out to me and said, oh my gosh, I got a ball in the mail. What are they going to do with a ball? Are they going to deflate it and throw it away? No, it's still in their office. They're probably still playing with it. It's something to do. So number 7, I just want to tell you to don't be afraid to put yourself out there. And back in 2017, before I niched down in industry, I was kind of more focused on small business retail. I live out here in Waconia, and the chamber every year puts on an event called Deer Day. And that is the first Saturday of November. It is deer opener. And the premise is that the men, or the outdoors men and women, go out hunting in their deer stands. And this is marketed towards the women to come to town to shop local, shop small, get good deals and steals. And if you wear Blaze Orange, some of the businesses will actually give you a discount or some sort of free swag or a gift or something. So I thought, oh, I'm a chamber member. And how cool would it be to have these foam orange antlers made for Deer Day? And so I contacted my promotions person and I had them made, and they say, I've got a set right here. They say, get noticed, Danielle Alexander Design, graphic design and marketing services. And I hit the pavement on that day, passing them out. And I stepped inside some businesses. And one of the very first businesses I walked into, I said, hi, would you like some antlers? And they looked at me and they kind of said, no, and oh my gosh, I was devastated. I was just chest-fallen. I was so embarrassed. And I thought, oh my gosh, I just spent $350 and these people think I'm such a nerd. Oh my gosh. Well, I kind of, my sister-in-law was with me and I thought, well, I'll be darned if I'm going to cry in front of, my sister-in-law and all my, peers here in business. So I kind of bucked up and I went across the street to the fashion show, which is kind of the main event of the day. And I passed them out and people were wearing them in the audience. People were wearing them up on stage, got a lot of pictures of them. And then guess what happened? A week later, I got a call from a woman that was at the fashion show, and she hired me for a gig that more than covered the price of those antlers. So it actually was a good return on investment. I just really needed to find my tribe. They say that your vibe attracts your tribe, right? Kind of going back to that story with the unparalleled taxidermy thing. The people that get it will get it. You can't be everything to everybody, but it will resonate with someone. And you just need to find those people and build a community around that. Now, number 9, last one that I want to kind of tell you about is progress over perfection. And this one was the hardest for me because I'm such a perfectionist and I get analysis paralysis. But in mid 2020, end of 2020, kind of during the pandemic, I happened to meet through the chamber a young emerging videographer. She was just starting her freelance business and I wanted to be supportive. Plus, I wanted to do some additional marketing outreach since I wasn't able to meet folks in person during COVID. So I was kind of an early adopter of video on LinkedIn. And I didn't get a lot of engagement with the videos. I got a lot of views, but not a lot of people actually clicking or anything like that. And then everywhere I went, people would say, oh, I saw your video, and to look back at those videos is hard because I was not good on air talent and I'm still not, but especially in the beginning, you can tell I'm nervous, very, very stiff. But as we went along, I got more comfortable. We started including some bloopers that were funny that got people to watch. And it turned out to be really great for business because I had people coming into my inbox saying, hey, I've been watching your videos. I feel like I know you. I feel like we have a rapport and I'd love to work with you. And I thought, oh my gosh, I don't know you from Adam, but if you like me and you want to work with me, that's fantastic. Sign me up. So it really did a huge things for my business. And I was actually able to double my revenue in 2023 over 2022. And I attribute it a ton to just networking and the videos. So if you do these 9 things, I can guarantee that you're going to stand out from a crowd. You're going to establish credibility and trust. You're going to build that network of like-minded professionals and community, create advocates for yourself, your business, your brand, your organizations, and your service opportunities. You're going to create more opportunities and serve more folks, leading to more greater life satisfaction, which I think is what life is all about, the meaning of life, right? The big, big picture. So try and do those things. Let me know how it goes. And if all else fails, just do these 3 things. Work hard, be kind, smile, stay humble, and try to have a little fun along the way. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Danielle. We have a few minutes. Brock, can we open it up, see if anyone has any questions for Danielle?
Absolutely. If anyone has questions, either throw something into the chat or feel free to unmute and go ahead and ask.
Danielle, my name is Jim Eaton. I've been a fan of this notion of brand you or self branding for a long time. I go back to I could be your dad, but I go back to the '80s with a company called Wilson Learning Corporation, and I got introduced to a man that's been my hero in the management consulting club named Tom Peters. And you may or may not know, he a number of years ago he wrote a book called Brand You, which is again your same sort of notion. But the thing of all the things he talked about, this was the thing that I used in my consulting work when I talked about leadership and developing people in an organizational setting. The idea of think and act resume. If you think of it, all of us at certain times in our lives, we're very concerned about our resume. And what does a resume do? It distinguishes and differentiates us from others. And we do it by our skills, our experience, our knowledge, and how we can add value to an organization of those people around me. So we get very excited if we're looking for a new job to really use the notion of a resume and how it differentiates you. However, many people, once they get the job, forget how important that resume has to be in terms of improving, of the notion of how you need to continue to act in a way that you could update your resume at a certain point, annually at least, and show why you are a better person today, or how much you've contributed and the value that you've added. So literally, if you were looking for a job, it might not look the same. It would look different from the one that you might have done two or 3 years ago. So the idea was, rather than just thinking about a resume when you're looking for a new job, think about on at least an annual basis, be able to identify how you are a better and different person today than you were a year ago. What things have you learned? What contributions have you made? That really have made a difference, not only in your personal life, that those people you touch. So anyway, I ramble a bit, but the idea of we can really apply this much more in a deep fashion about us changing and growing. We're never, last point I'll make, we are never staying the same. We're either getting better or getting worse. And we have to focus on the fact that if we want to get better and deal with a world of geometric change, we can't stand still. We have to be able to document why we are a better and different person today than we were a certain time in the past. There you go.
Definitely.
Right. Thanks, Jim. Anybody else have a question?
I have a question, Gail.
Yes.
So Danielle, thank you for your presentation. It feels a little daunting as a project or a process. How do you get started? How do you recommend somebody going from no organization around their personal brand to getting started?
I would say you're probably so close to yourself that you can't see the forest for the trees. And I would say maybe back up a little bit and think about, okay, how do people see you? How do you want to be seen? And kind of start thinking about maybe taking some of those tests like the Strengths Finder or a Myers-Briggs or something like that. And maybe just writing a list, I am statements, I am organized, I am this, I am that, and really find out who you are. And then think about people that are close to you and how do you compare? How do you contrast? What do you bring to the table? What do you add? Who can you compliment? Those types of things. And just make a list. And then once you feel confident and that's how you want to show up, then every time you show up somewhere and you communicate with people, whether it's in person, on Zoom, you show up as that person.
Thank you. I appreciate it very much. Good presentation today.
Thanks so much.
Thanks, Dick. Anybody else have a question?
Gail, can you hear me?
Yep, Joyce, go ahead.
Okay. Danielle, I just really enjoyed your presentation and I really like your energy. It's fun to watch you. I think you'll be very successful in your life. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that, Joyce. Thanks so much. And I just want to add real quick, if I'm still sharing my screen and you can see it, there's a QR code up there. If you have a chance and you have a smartphone, if you could snap that really quick with your camera, it will lead you to a very short Talkadot survey. I'm always trying to improve and be better. If this added value to your day, I'd love to know how and some ways that I can improve and add value to other folks if I do any further speaking. So thank you. I really appreciate your time in doing that. And it will probably ask for your email. I just want to let you know that I will not keep it. I won't add it to my newsletter or spam you in any way. I promise.
All right. One last question from anyone? Everybody good to go? All right. Well, Danielle, thank you so much. It was a wonderful presentation. We all learned things, I'm sure. For our speakers, what we like to do is we have a children's book that we ask the speaker to sign, and then we give it to a third grader who often has no books or very few through a company, through an organization called Way to Grow. So I see you every now and then, or you can come to an in-person Rotary. We'd love to have you come as a guest, but I'll make sure you get that so you can sign it and we'll get it to a third grader. So thank you for that.
That would be wonderful. I would love to. Thank you. That's
You
a great
bet.
idea.
You bet. All right. Well, with that, I think, Ross, we'll turn it back to you to close the meeting.
Excellent. Thanks so much, Gail, and thanks so much, Danielle. Nice use of Canva too, I could tell. I think your presentation was in Canva, which is a PowerPoint but online version for those who don't know. But I wanted to thank also our volunteers for today, the reflection from David Wheeler, Happy Bucks led by Brock Gray, our day chair Gail again, and Danielle for speaking today, and then our Zoom host Brock. So thank you all for joining us. Next week, we will be in person. So Mark, you can show up next week and be confident we're going to be there. But Benny Roberts, who is the VP of Youth and Career Development at Urban Ventures Leadership Foundation, will talk about giving communities voice. I think he's a very dynamic speaker, and I think Carol knows him pretty well. So really excited to hear him speak. So we will be in person next week. And with that, go out and have a wonderful Rotary week. Ding.